Hi, everyone, and welcome to 10 Ways to Improve Your LinkedIn Articles. My name is Sue Elson. I'm an independent LinkedIn specialist based in Melbourne, Australia, and it's great to have you with us. This is the 25th event in the series, so there's a whole bunch of other webinars, and I'll provide the links to those later. So what am I going to cover today? 10 ways to improve your LinkedIn articles. I'm going to be including specific tips as well as relevant examples. So if you haven't already, I invite you to follow me on social media. Obviously, LinkedIn is my favorite platform here, and my YouTube subscribers are going up. So I'd love to see you on there, but also on any of your other favorite platforms. And if you'd like to mention where you are calling in from on this webinar, whether you're in Australia or overseas, and if you've got your LinkedIn profile open, you can click the More button and choose About this profile, and it will tell you the year that you joined. So if you'd like to pop that in the chat, that'd be great. And also you can ask questions at any time, and you can either ask everyone or just me in the chat. If you want to contact me directly afterwards, you can do that. And hopefully there'll be at least 3 things that you learn from this webinar that you'll be able to do within 3 hours from now. Alternatively 3 days, but I'm pretty sure that if you do it within 3 hours, there's a fairly good chance of it happening. So my latest offer is on my website. Those 5 files will go to anybody who has registered and attends live. So you'll get an email with those spreadsheets all attached and a sample resume layout. And my next live workshop here in Melbourne will be on Saturday the 28th of October from 9:30 to 1:30. It's restricted to 4 people, so it's almost one-on-one, and the people who've come along have got a lot done in those 4 hours on their LinkedIn profiles. So for those of you who don't know, I am a member of various associations. My career started at Westpac in Adelaide. I worked there for 11 years in the bank, and then I moved to Melbourne, and I've had a range of different roles ever since. I often say that I've not had a real job since 1994, and I use technology to attract aligned gigs, which makes me a gigster. I set up my first website, newcomersnetwork.com, in 2001. In 2016, I started my author publishing career. So I published my first 3 books, those 3 there, in 2016. Gigsters is 2019, and LinkedIn for Me and My Career or Business is 2023. Both of these 2 books are finalists in the Australian Career Book Award. And this one is as if I was sitting next to you, going through your LinkedIn profile, doing things one-on-one. So that's the one, obviously, I recommend as a follow-up to this. And alternatively, if you don't like reading, you prefer videos and on-screen stuff, you can go through the entire book with a digital course. Would take about 10 weeks for 2 hours a week, and that's 247 Australian dollars. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on where you are based, as well as me. And this presentation is designed for everybody. The slides and video will be sent to everybody who's registered. You don't need to turn on your camera. I'm going to assume a varied level of knowledge and experience. Everything was correct at the time I started. As I said before, pop your questions in the chat. Plenty more information on my website. I will be asking you what's been most helpful to you at the end, but I'll also have a little exit survey. So as you leave the webinar, please pop your answers in there. If you're watching this well after the recording, you may notice some things have changed, but the strategy will usually be the same. And it's about 10 hours worth of work to produce this free event. So if you'd like to find a way to say thank you, I would definitely appreciate that. You can buy a book, you can follow me on social media, you can provide a LinkedIn endorsement or recommendation, a Facebook or a Google review. So here's what we're covering today: the difference between a post and an article, the difference between an article and a newsletter, creator mode versus company page, search engine optimizing, the title and content of an article, as well as the actual article itself, including a call to action, considering resharing your article after you've published it, but also I'm going to touch on the chat experience. We've all been hearing about artificial intelligence, AI, and I'd like to remind you that there's the way to get your LinkedIn articles to appear in chat experience results, how to respond to comments, article examples, some other links, and also to remind you to keep a backup. So what is a post versus what is an article? So a post is something that when you open up LinkedIn, you will have the option to write a post that goes in the news feed. And if you click in that box, you will then get this screen, which gives you all these different choices of the different types of posts that you can do. So adding an image, setting an event, showing that you're hiring, adding a document, there's lots of polls. There's lots of different types of posts. So the post will only go in the news feed, and it's basically dynamic content. It's to remind people you're still alive. Might last a week. Sometimes if it's really amazing, it might last a little bit longer. But unless you keep the link to that post, it's pretty much going to disappear, and that will be the end of that. You can put up to 3,000 characters in it. That's gone up from 1,300. You can also add an image or video. You can also save a PowerPoint or Word document to PDF and upload that as a PDF. There's no text formatting, so you can't bold and italics and put headings in a post. It's all just plain text. Some people use a different type of code, so their text looks different. I don't recommend that because the algorithms are working on text. They're not working on code. So don't recommend it. You can, as I said before, create a poll that will last for a period of time. They were very popular a while back. And as I said before, there's lots of different types of posts. They did have carousels. They've removed those. But this LinkedIn Help article here talks a little bit more about it. But an article. So an article is something you can write as an individual, but also as a company page. And I really loved articles when they came in back in 2014, and I started writing them way back then. If you want to start a new one, you can just click on that link, or from the post or the news feed, you'll see a little button that says write an article. That will automatically go out under your personal profile. If you want to do it under a company page or a school page, then it's a different spot. But what I love about articles is they are a permanent record on the internet. So they basically don't disappear. So they provide you with something that I'm always on about for my clients, which is digital asset value. You can have up to 125,000 characters. I think it's about 10,000 words or something. So it's a lot of content you could add. You can put in images, you can put in videos, you can format the text. So you can see here, there's all these style options. You can put in a quote, you can put in a line, links, you can embed some code, images, videos, lots of different things. And you can search engine optimize it. You've got this image that goes in up the top, full title. I put in a heading as well. And this one gives you a few tips on writing articles. So that's what we're talking about today. But then there's the next incarnation, which is called a newsletter. And I call that an article on steroids. So when you write an article, as I said before, you can do it under your profile or as an administrator for a company or school page. If you have the ability to write a newsletter because you've got more than 150 followers on your company page, or you've turned on creator mode and they've given you the permission to write a newsletter, then every time someone follows you as a person or as a company page, they will be invited to subscribe to your newsletter, which I think is an amazing opportunity. And also, when you do your first newsletter, it will automatically invite everyone you're connected to subscribe to it as well. So that's a pretty big bonus. It's also free to send it out, and it doesn't annoy people via their emails because it comes through as a notification only. So I like it because it reminds people that I exist, but it doesn't annoy them with an email in their inbox. Now, when newsletters first came out, everybody started doing them like crazy because they were getting so much traction. But it's unsustainable to try and think of putting out a newsletter every week. So I put mine out every month at the end of the month, and I just summarize what I've done throughout the month and pop that in a newsletter. So I publish my newsletter on my website first, then on my LinkedIn profile, then on my LinkedIn company page, and then I send it out via MailChimp. I'm not necessarily recommending MailChimp as an email distribution service. It's quite expensive, but it is very reliable. So that's the way I do it. So basically I unsubscribed everybody who I had on my email list because I know people are tired of emails. And now I've got a very small circulation on my emails because, as I said, I don't want to annoy people in their inbox. Now, I have found that creating articles or newsletters is easiest if you do it on your laptop or your desktop computer. And you can check out the status of whether you have LinkedIn Creator via that link. That is a link about newsletter access. And then LinkedIn has also produced a piece on newsletters best practice if you want to go down that path. And our webinar next month will be on LinkedIn newsletters, so there'll be more in that one. So creator mode, this is something you can turn on your own profile, and it usually gives you access to newsletters. Now, it gives you access to LinkedIn Live, LinkedIn Audio, a follow button. I don't use any of those features. I just use the newsletter feature. And you can also set 5 hashtag topics. So whenever I can, whenever I produce content, I include my hashtags and I try and make it about those topics. And to date, I have noticed that articles written under a personal profile seem to get a lot more traction than articles written under a company page profile. So just keep that in mind. It's not a reason not to write company page articles. The good thing about a company page article is it stays with the company profile. So if the CEO wrote it and the CEO leaves, the article is still on the company page, which I think is a great bonus. Now, the business area of LinkedIn has written a great piece on publishing articles that you can check out. And then there's another help question there as well that you can click on. So as I said, all these slides will be available, or they are already, on my website, and you'll be getting access to the recording, which will be on my YouTube channel as well. So the next part is search engine optimizing the title and content. So several years ago, I was at an event and I met this very cranky, grumpy person, and they were complaining they couldn't get a job. They were over 50. They weren't getting paid what they should be. And anyway, I got back to my desk and I wrote this article on tough love for the unemployed over 50. And it was very successful. And this article, people started engaging with it. And somebody said, can you write one for people under 30 and between 30 and 50? So that's what I did. Now, we all know that Google does not like duplicate content. You can't publish one piece of content here and put it on 24 websites and expect all of those 24 websites to be in search results. So what was really interesting is over time, out of those 3 articles, under 30s, 30s to 50s and over 50s, you can see here that Google decided that the under 31 was the most popular one. And I didn't want to lose the value of my other ones. So what I did is I republished them in 2022 on my website. And so here's the one for over 50, and here's the one between 30 and 50. So now I've got all 3 articles in Google search results. So that's how I search engine optimized both the original LinkedIn article plus the blog post on my website. So from what I understand from an SEO expert that I asked, is you are allowed to republish your own content on LinkedIn, but you can't publish it, as I said before, on 24 other websites. So if you want to have everything indexed, you would put one version on LinkedIn and a different version, 30% different, on your website. And then in theory, both of those could be indexed as well. So a lot of people like to write really sexy journalistic style titles, but nobody in a chat prompt or a search query would actually type that into a search engine. So I say skip the fancy alliterations and titles that sound really sexy. Go for the keyword-driven titles of your articles. And whatever I call it, in this case, tough love for the unemployed job seekers under 30, I actually use a heading 1 for the same one. So what all the search engines love to see is something called markup. So any text that is being bold, heading, font, italics, you use quotations, you use those dividing lines, anything that's going to show that you've done something beyond copy paste out of ChatGPT, a bit of text, then that's going to increase the value of that content. And the next thing that's also going to prove that it wasn't just automatically written by a bot is that you have included references. So you could be linking to another article that goes into more detail. You could be linking to a particular person who said that comment, or you could be linking to an official source of research or data about it. So what that does is, again, it proves that a human being wrote this and it's likely to perform better for you. I also believe that all content you publish should be mobile phone friendly or mobile device friendly. So whether it's looking on a phone, a tablet, a laptop, or a desktop computer, if you've got lots of white space all around it, that's going to make it much easier to read. Break it up with images, break it up with at least one video. Google in particular only likes to see one video on a piece of content, because otherwise it gets confused about which is the primary video, but you can have multiple images. So that's what I tend to do there. So if you'd like to see those links from that image there, you can just click on those. So after you've search engine optimized the actual content, at the top of your screen, there's this little manage button, and you can see you can choose SEO settings. Now, this is a fairly new feature on articles. So what you can do is you can pop your SEO title in there, and you can also put in your SEO description. Now, I'm pretty sure that's over 140 characters there, but at least it gives you an idea of just a prelude of what is going to be in this article if people click on it from search results. So you might also, as I did with this one, this was designed to be a controversial topic to get people to read it, because I'm tired of some decision makers and some recruiters disrespecting the candidate's time, because I work with a lot of candidates who are going for a job and they have to go through 6 interviews and multiple video things and all this kind of stuff, and they get a little bit disappointed because it's a lot of work and they don't necessarily have a guarantee they're going to get the job. So I wrote this article to say, well, look, if you had to pay everybody $50 to turn up for an interview, you might change your selection procedures and only, reduce your shortlist to 6 people and your interview list to 3 people. And then maybe if it's a token gesture, $50, but it would at least improve your recruitment practices. So this article was actually found by people in Google, and they organised a time to talk to me. They're going to implement this type of procedure within Google worldwide. So that was pretty exciting. And I also contacted the LinkedIn editors here in Australia, and then they featured it through the LinkedIn news channel as well. So if you've got a topic that's brand new, newsworthy, challenging the status quo, then it's perhaps worth resharing it at some later point, or contacting other people and seeing if they would be interested in it, quoting it, whatever. And so if you want to read the article, you'll also see that I summarized some of the comments from the LinkedIn news version that went out, and I added those to the article later. So I actually updated my LinkedIn article as well to help it come up. And if you Google page job candidates for interviews, it comes up in Google search results as well. So the other thing that is really important when you write any form of content is to include a call to action. What is the person going to do afterwards? So what's exciting is LinkedIn has now added this immersive reader feature, which enables people of all abilities and using assistive technology to read the content in a different format, which might be more suitable for their needs. But what I do, this was on one of my articles that I wrote earlier in the year, this is what I wrote at the end of it. So that was my call to action. So my original calls to action were much longer. I had a lot more steps in here. I personally wrote this in because I wanted people to know whether I'd updated it or not. And these were the hashtags I put on it when I published it and so on. These were my post nominals at the time, and reminding people to visit my website, whatever. So if somebody finds your article in a search or chat result and they click on it and it's clear that they've read it and they've done whatever they needed to do, then that tells these search engines and chat robots that this was the right answer and people don't have to go anywhere else. So therefore that improves the quality and the performance of your article. So you've got to tell people to add in comments and share it. It's not something that people automatically think to do. But also, if the article is going out under your company page, you're going to need to make sure that you keep an eye on your notifications. So I'm very good at my personal profile notifications because it's on the screen every time I log in. But my company page ones, I have to physically remind myself to look at those notifications. So these are the links. If you know what your LinkedIn URL, you just pop that in there. I've already changed mine to Sue Elson, one word. Some people have first name dash last name, or you might have not changed it. And if you put it that your own URL in there, you'll be able to see all the articles you've written. And this format link also works in the same way. And that was the call to action on that particular piece there. Now, resharing. So my article on how to showcase your professional membership on LinkedIn comes up in search queries for professional membership LinkedIn. So I have been saying for a little while now, I love using Bing. Instead of Google search, I go to bing.com for my searches. And what you can see on this screen here is I've chosen the chat experience. So when I put in the query for professional membership LinkedIn, the chatbot changed my question to a prompt, LinkedIn professional membership benefits. So it assumed that that's what I was trying to find out about, because a chatbot is like a conversation and it's trying to think, well, what does she really mean by that prompt? And it answers the question accordingly. So as you can see here, content that has these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dot points is going to be very helpful if you want to appear in chat results. And what I also like about using Bing is if I'm preparing content and thinking of a title to call my article, when I put it into the search component or the chat component of Bing, I get additional ideas. And I think, right, well, that's something else I could add to this piece of content. And you can see here, it looks very legitimate because it's referencing these, but basically you're getting the Chat GPT experience and the search experience all on the same screen, because Microsoft owns Bing and Microsoft has purchased ChatGPT, so it can be used in these chat queries. And then the other benefit of using a chatbot is it gives you some other questions people might ask about that topic. So again, that can really help you with either A, producing the article in the first place and coming up with the right ideas, or B, thinking about what you could add or update it and then share it again at some later point in time. Now, another little interesting thing happened with my LinkedIn articles. A couple of them were outperforming LinkedIn's own content. So what I noticed was that my articles were removed from the Google search index. So one in particular was LinkedIn for Journalists, and it was ranking, always number 1, page 1 of Google search results. And then one day it wasn't. And so it was pretty easy for me to see that at the back end of LinkedIn had de-indexed my content so it would not appear in search results. So I thought, okay, two can play at this game, and I republished it on my website blog because they can't de-index my website. And because Google's database already knew that this content was what people were interested in, it got re-ranked again. And that's how that Tough Love for the Unemployed one got re-ranked. I know that's a very technical piece of information there. If you don't quite understand it, please let me know. But my goal is now to not only appear in search results, but to appear in chat results, because I can see that over time, people are just going to use a robot to answer all their questions where they don't even have to go and visit a website. So I'm preparing for that development in the online world. And as I said before, use those chat prompts to help you think about what else you might like to include in the content of your articles. So that was my original LinkedIn article from 2014 on professional membership of LinkedIn. and you can use bing.com, even with your Google Chrome browser, if you type in bing.com and go from there. Now, as I said earlier, if you've got your own company page, and I have a company page called Sue Elson, my notifications will not appear up here as they do for my personal activity. They appear on this left menu over here. So if you are an admin or a super admin for a company page, please make sure you check the activity and you respond, because the algorithms within the LinkedIn platform are always checking to see, are you active? Do you do things, etc., etc. So make sure that if people have liked stuff or made a comment, that you respond to it. And if you do see a comment there, make sure you write as long a response as you possibly can to keep the conversation going. And as I also said before, even though the content via a LinkedIn article on a company page is not as popular as a personal profile, if I'm doing a little bit of due diligence on the organisation, I may end up seeing those articles and that news feed and seeing what's happening. And if it's been a bit of a ghost town on the company page for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, then I'm not going to believe that the organisation is up to date and current. So that's why all my content I publish on my personal profile and I publish it on my company page. And the other thing is, we don't just want to log in and talk. We want to log in and listen as well. So the way to demonstrate that you are listening on a platform is by reacting to people's content and adding in comments. So as a general rule, 6-to-1, even better if you can make it 12-to-1, so 12 reactions or comments and only 1 posting of an actual post or an article or a newsletter. So, Social Media Examiner, many of you have possibly heard of this organisation based in the US. And this Judy Fox, I was listening to her on a podcast once, and she was talking all about LinkedIn newsletters, and it was very interesting. And even her own personal profile, she's got this little piggy foxy ears that she wears in her videos. She's got all these logos. She's telling people to ring the notification bell. She's got emojis in her headline. She's been identified as a top sales voice on LinkedIn, 45,000 followers, you name it. She's got it all happening. And she produces the Business Accelerator newsletter. So she hasn't produced a newsletter for quite a while. So it was probably nearly, well, at least 6 months ago that I heard her. So I presume she was talking about newsletters from a Social Media Examiner perspective rather than from her own perspective. But if you look at that newsletter, you will see it has all the bells and whistles, and it's got a lot of detail in there. So you can use that as an example. And then this is another article she wrote on how to be a guest on 100 podcasts. So that may also be of interest. Now, last year, I actually found a list of all the newsletters on LinkedIn, and it was on that link. Sadly, that link no longer works. I did retest it this morning. I'm hoping that LinkedIn might bring it back because wouldn't it be cool if we could see all the newsletters that were available? But this article by Dripify actually gives you some fantastic suggestions on the content of your LinkedIn newsletter. And it gives some examples and some extra tips and links to additional resources. I have no affiliation with this organisation, but I did check it out and I thought there's some really good practical stuff. If you're worried about the content of your article, that would be very helpful. And if you click on My Network on the left-hand side of the screen, you will see how many newsletters you've already subscribed to. And it might be time, if you're no longer interested in those topics, to perhaps delete a few. But also, if there's one you really like, you'll see the article layout, and there might be something you'd like to replicate in that for your own articles. So it's another way to see things. Now, some years ago, I was quiet over January, and I spent a day, or 3 days actually, answering questions on a question and answer website. I won't mention the name of it, and 160 answers. It was a lot of work. But apparently my answers were against the agreement. I actually think somebody who didn't like me reported them, but that's another story. And all of those answers were all deleted without warning, and I had no copy of them. So I learnt from that exercise, if we produce content and we want to see it again, reuse it again, edit it in some way, we jolly well should keep a copy of it. So the number one way I do this is I just email a copy of whatever I've published to myself, but I've also got a list of publications that I can add it to, and I always copy paste the link to archive.org/web. And that way, even if I'm dead and buried and my computer's gone to hell, the archive.org website will still have a record of what I wrote. So that's a little procedure that I do on a regular basis. So now the big question is, as a result of listening to this webinar, what are your 3 favourite things to do in relation to LinkedIn articles? What stands out for you? What is something that you would consider doing? And I'm really looking forward to answering any questions shortly. As I said, the 26th webinar in this series will be about LinkedIn newsletters specifically. But if you want to watch any of the previous webinars, there's no login, no fee. You can see the slides and the video recording on this link down the bottom of the screen. Reminder, if you want to do the online course, that's the entire book with all the videos and everything else to do it for the setup, shine and surprise methodology. And also there's these spreadsheets and files that I'll send through to anybody who's attended live. You can come to the live event here in Melbourne on the 28th of October. And don't forget to keep up to date with what I'm doing via social media. Not everything I publish is put on LinkedIn. Some things I only put on other platforms. And if you prefer to get email, you can still subscribe to that. My books are available on my website. And then there's lots of extra resources on my website. Today's recording will be available on that link, which will also be in the YouTube video as well. So I would love to hear some questions. Hopefully you've got something you can think of. It doesn't matter if it's not related to articles. I'm happy to answer any LinkedIn related questions, and also for you to share with me what's been most helpful, or if you want to type up what 3 things you plan to do, because that might keep you accountable and keep it fresh in your mind. When you leave the webinar, if you can just quickly answer the what was most helpful question, and if you would like to say thank you, you can write an online review on Google, Facebook, or my website, and those are the QR codes you can scan so that you can just type it up now. So Nazreen, you've gone on the screen. Do you have a question you would like to ask?
Yes, please. Thank you very much for all the information. I wonder if we can use LinkedIn for political purposes.
I would not recommend it. It is a professional platform, and it is designed for professionals. It's not designed to be an advocacy platform. Now, that said, the Premier of South Australia, which is like the leading government representative, invited me to connect with him on LinkedIn. I don't even know why he did that, but you can definitely have it as part of your personal identity and your personal profile. But I also have a policy of only putting content online that is friendly and professional and solution focused. So I don't like political content. It sort of says, you must agree with this, or you must agree with that, or it's a policy outline or something like that. So if it's a bipartisan type of piece of content, then possibly if you want to raise awareness of a particular issue, something like that, provided in my mind, you also include the solution. So you don't just say the opposition, you know, whilst they're in power, should be paying for X. I don't see that as a useful forum. The other thing is, if you are seen as being political, I'm not sure whether it's against the LinkedIn user agreement, so you might want to have a look at that. Just Google LinkedIn user agreement. I'm pretty sure we're definitely not allowed to do hate speech, but I'm pretty sure there's some comment about political information being shared. But I still think as a person, we have a right to have an identity. So, you know, from that perspective, I think you can do that. But pushing a cause, trying to gather interest, not so great. Now, the other thing I have done is been an advocate for people who are new to Australia in the past. And again, I've shared educational information, inspiration, that kind of stuff. So I see all that as, for want of a better word, soft politics, you know, part of the political process. But I would never want to put anything online that was confrontational. But that's my background and living in Australia and the context within which I live and work. Also, I'm not funded by anybody. There's no conflicts of interest. You'd have to declare those sorts of things if you were getting funded. I mean, and all of that is a little bit beyond my scope. I hope that answers the question. I'd suggest you look at the LinkedIn user agreement first. That would be my number one suggestion. But I'm pretty sure they're going to say you're not allowed to use it for politics.
Of course, yeah. I don't mean that kind of politics to change the government or something, just to raise awareness. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And particular topics. Now, the other thing is, I don't believe in triggering people or disturbing people. So, for instance, if it was a very sensitive topic that you were trying to raise awareness on, I would suggest you be very, very careful about how you do that. Because I did the mental health first aid course here in Australia, which was very, very useful. And there are ways to present information. So if there is an issue, we may not be able to solve it, but we may be able to suggest the next step for someone. So for instance, if somebody was feeling very anxious about their life and had suicidal ideation or thoughts, I would be allowed to ask them if they have that. And the first thing I would then recommend is, can you go and make an appointment with your doctor and see your doctor? Because the doctor will have all the skills in place to be able to handle that particular situation. So if you're advocating on a sensitive topic, I would just make sure that you do it sensitively.
Of course. Any other platform do you recommend for doing
sharing
this?
Content? What sort of content would you like to share?
Raising awareness about we want to see some changes in Australian government policy regarding the Islamic regime of Iran. I'm Iranian, and we see that it's going in the wrong direction. And we want people to be aware that this is going to end in a not so good place.
No,
so,
yeah, I hear you. Okay, well, I guess with all content, you've got to think about who's going to read it and will it make a difference. So that's a really sensitive topic. So you would definitely need to have evidence for everything you're suggesting. Yeah. And one of the platforms that would require you to have a master's degree or be an academic right now is the website called The Conversation. And you could speak to the editors there and say, here's a story idea I have. So if you don't have a master's and you're not an academic in a university, you could put it to them. But there's another website called openforum.com.au, which is very highly populated by advisors, policymakers, those sorts of people. So speak to the editor at Open Forum.
Okay. Are these for Australia or global?
Yeah, Australia. Yeah.
Forum. The Conversation. Thank you.
And I'm just trying to think of any others where you would reach government officials. Maybe make a time to go and speak to your local member of parliament, because they should be able to make additional recommendations for you. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That'd be my suggestions. Okay, I've got a quick question here. Can we review the 10 points again? Yes, absolutely. Let me bring that back up on the screen and I will show you those again. That's a good question. Difference between a post and an article, difference between an article and a newsletter, creator mode versus the company page, search engine optimize the title and content, search engine optimize the article, include a call to action, consider resharing as a post and chat experience, as in getting in chat experience results, respond to comments, examples of articles, and keeping a backup. So anybody else want to mention what was most helpful to them, what they plan to do next, or do you have another question? Otherwise, I will wrap it up there. Gone up to 12:40. Well, thank you again for your participation. Oh, how to create a video. Okay, so I like to put all of my video content on YouTube first, because then I can get the subtitles, and then when I upload it into any other social media platform, I upload the subtitles. It's an SRT file as well as the video, and then I share it around. Now, LinkedIn does offer us the ability to add a video, and it will automatically create captions that you can edit. So that is another option. But I've also been using the platform canva.com to edit videos and put intros and outros and all that kind of thing. So the actual production of video itself, I use Canva for that as well. How to use groups to spread more. Okay, groups were amazing. Back in the day, they were really fantastic. But when we got a news feed on LinkedIn, the group's performance has seriously declined. I'm a member of many groups, but I've turned off notifications. And a lot of people, even if you're in the group, don't receive the notifications. So I don't really recommend it. And particularly if the only reason you're going into the group is to share a message, that's not the idea of a group. The idea of a group is to have a discussion and to continue conversations and to engage with people, not just tell everybody what you think. So yeah, I haven't found them to be the most useful. I found it better to have article content that appears in search results. So I write poetry, and I've optimized my poems on my website. So if you Google By the Seaside poem, it's a very well-known poem called By the Seaside, but my By the Seaside poem comes up in search results. So I try and search engine optimize everything so that I can be found that way instead, rather than just trying to get to groups and hope that people see it. So there we go. So thank you for joining this webinar, 10 ways to improve your LinkedIn articles. I look forward to seeing you either on a recording of a previous one or at a future one. And I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Sue Elson signing off. Thanks and bye for now.